As Sid said, I'm a technology fellow for manufacturing and engineering, so if you're not familiar with that term, it's sort of like research fellows is a much more kind of common term. At Dow, given our commitment to manufacturing and engineering technology, we have a similar program. So the fellow program at Dow is kind of following that same track of senior technical people who are focused on solving the most pressing technological and technical problems for Dow in manufacturing and engineering. So there's a group of us, we all have different skill sets. Some are experts in like leading the world in reaction engineering, and some are, experts at advanced control and optimization. My areas are cybersecurity and what we call the digital thread. I guess lots of people use that term now, but connectivity from manufacturing out. So I'm a chemical engineer who's kind of had my whole career shaped by the systems side of how we do engineering and operations. I'm just going to share, this is another way of showing what Sid talked about through his slides. So, I would make the assertion that one of the reasons we're seeing this convergence, and I'm not afraid of the word convergence, I think that's a good word. Because if you rip apart an ABB or an Emerson or a Siemens control system, or you start ripping apart even many of the devices that are underneath, you'll start to find something that looks an awful lot like the devices you have on the business side. And that's going to continue. And the reason it's going to continue is because we want to get more and more out of that hardware and software, right? So as digitalization increases, right, as we get more digital, the cybersecurity impact continues to grow as well. So maybe convergence isn't the right word. I call it confounding the systems, right? It becomes difficult to distinguish at the level that most attackers attack us. It becomes difficult to distinguish between a commercial business system and a OT control system. They're doing different things and they're pointed different ways, and they have a bunch of stuff around them to help that mission. But the same flaws and the same vulnerabilities that exist in the enterprise are being exploited down in the OT space. And so one of the ideas that we're going after is as these systems get increasingly confounded, we need to make sure our organizations become increasingly confounded. So we've had a history of the technology that we're using outpacing the processes and technologies. So the right way to do cybersecurity is to have a balance of all those elements, because any one of those is an entry point for the enemy. So this is all to say that one of the things you can do is decide not to digitalize, or to try to digitalize without some of this confounding of the systems, but it's going to slow you down, or it's going to limit what you're able to do. And so in my role, right, I have manufacturing cybersecurity functional responsibility. That says make sure we're protected and don't share. And I also work on the digital thread, which says share everything because there's business value. And so everything is about a balance. And so as companies go through this journey, you have to start deciding, right, how far down the digitalization path you want to go. And if you need to go all the way to the end, just understand that you're bringing in impacts, and you need to have extra expertise. You have to have people involved. If you're a manufacturing organization and you're pushing digitalizing manufacturing and getting that data out, you better bring some IT people into the fold, because they're going to know things you don't know about what the possible ramifications are, right? And if the IT organization is telling you everything in our company has to go to the cloud, which has been said at Dow once or twice, they have to understand, right, that they got to bring some OT people in, some manufacturing people who explain to them why that may not be as possible as they like to think, right? So I want to segue, though, into an area that hasn't been talked about much, and it'd be interesting to see if there's any questions, and that's the idea of technical debt. So that's sort of an IT term. I don't hear it so much on the manufacturing, and as a chemical engineer working around plants, we tend to call it reliable systems that last a long time, right? But every time you extend the life of a system, or you extend the stability of a system by keeping it at a version, right, and trying to keep that thing running because it's reliable, you are, to some degree, building up some level of technical debt. And as we bring the IT and OT worlds together, what we are finding at Dow is that we are finding the life cycles, expected life cycles of technology in the manufacturing environment and in the business or enterprise environment are different. But the processes and the need to keep both moving at some rate that's acceptable, right, to the organizations that run it is critical. Because what we're finding is as we push our manufacturing cybersecurity program, we're running into people and culture and process, all that stuff we're working on. But fundamentally, we often run into, we just can't do something we want to do or get a piece of data or do some monitoring we want to do because our switches are, 15 years old or the firewalls are 10 years old, right? Some new piece of capability is now being written, or ABB or Emerson or Siemens is developing some new capability on their latest control platform that addresses cybersecurity or gives us extra monitoring. I can't get there because all my plants, I've got 100 plants that are running some old version, and you know what? That's a huge pill to swallow to try to figure out how to upgrade all those to get to there. So the argument we're starting to make inside of Dow, we make it on the enterprise side, we're starting to make it with the manufacturing side, is in the grand scheme of projects that a plant manager looks at as he tries to decide or she decides what to do this year, where their capital is going to go. I guarantee you that yield and production, capacity, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff, and then down near the bottom of the list will be a control system upgrade, unless there's some absolutely dead stop. You're not going to be in support anymore. The vendor's going to leave you, behind if you don't do something. So the argument we're making is don't wait for it to get there. We are starting to get a pretty good bite amongst our manufacturing leadership that those projects, while they shouldn't be at the top of the list unless it's an emergency situation, they need to move up, right? You have to balance this idea that capacity and the actual production capability of your plant to some degree relies on the ability of those systems to stay up to date, right? It's a reliability issue if there's either a problem with you can't get support or an attack vector that you haven't been able to protect yourself against. And so you can see it's not just the process and control and automation, it's the operating system that they sit on, right? There's network equipment. One of the things we're taking on this year is remote access, because there is a bunch of different ways you can get remote access into these systems. And, Dow has policies and procedures and operating discipline, but, given the history and the technical debt we've built up, there's a lot of different approaches to how you actually get into those systems, and they're all good. They're all meant for good. We don't build remote access capability assuming somebody's going to do evil. The problem is people are out there with the intent to do evil, and so we have to take a look at that. So this is a topic. It'd be interesting to see how many people have started to encounter this, right? It could just be that we're pushing the envelope, and but we are absolutely finding this to be one of the challenges. And one of the good things is our enterprise partners, while they have a different timeline, they do have processes. They do have a way of looking at lifecycle management that we could benefit from. So overall, this is a slide I showed Monday. One of the things from looking at a program around manufacturing cybersecurity, this idea that you need to be standards-based. You have to have some way of organizing so that you can help your internal people understand, and also so you can report out to people that you need to tell what you're doing, either your board or the Department of Homeland Security in a CFATS audit, or whatever. But you also need to build up a foundational model, something that says that here are the elements that I really believe have the most impact. You'll see for Dow, culture and architecture and operational discipline are really key to us as to how we get to the issue of better cybersecurity. And then, as everybody says, and this was all through Sid's slides, it's not just technology, right? It's going to be a bunch of different pieces that you need to manage, and it's going to be something that I would hesitate to say. If you have a 1-year plan or a 2-year plan, and then you don't follow that up, midway through with, okay, what are we doing after that? Then you're going to fall behind, right? So a multi-generational plan is the way to try to keep up with what the bad actors are out there doing. Thank you.